Hey guys, Trigger John coming at you with another Awaken Chaos Era video. On today's video, we do have two things that we're going to talk about today. The first thing is going to be, I caved. I did pull 50 shards. We tried to get Gorel. Stay tuned. Maybe I got him. Maybe I didn't. The second thing we're going to talk about is how do you gear a DPS unit, and what do you look for when you're trying to gear your DPS unit? All right, so let's start with the real juicy content, and that's going to be the summons. Let's just put it this way: I had a lot more diamonds than what I do now, and we may or may not have got something. A streamer named Mike. That sounds totally legit, Boiler. Definitely the one that's going to sound better than me. It's okay. I'm not jealous. I'm not crying. You're crying. All right, we used all of our resources. Let's just eat some shards. We're at 2.5%, okay? Like, what's the worst that happens? We get a Lego right now, and it's Gorel. Okay, epic. Epic, whatever. We got Scarlet. I'll take that. Okay. Now, where did that put me? I'm at 7.5% into pity. Let's go one more. Let's go one more. Hopefully this one will give me something decent. Another epic. Lego. We got a Lego. All right. Okay. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. Blackhorn was a good one. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. We got another epic. Two means epic. Yeah, we just got an epic. Can I get a Silent? 2 Vance. Bands or make her dance. All right, let's go. Okay. 2 epics or epic again. No Lego. Vance, a third Vance. A Jonathan. Hey, that's my name. Okay. Last 10 pull. Can we get, I don't know, give me something. There's another epic for sure. Okay. No Lego. Bruzak. Whatever. We're doing things we shouldn't do. One more. One more. Come on. Give me something good. This is the Lego. This has to be the Lego, right? I did it again. I wasted all my stuff. Okay, cool. All right, whatever. It's fine. I'm not crying. You're crying. Okay, I lied. We didn't get anything. we got a 5th Blackhorn. That didn't really benefit me too awful much. The only thing that did do me is I'm gonna keep him. I'm gonna wait until I get to this level 29 here. I'll use him for that. He'll be the instant complete this one, and then I'll move forward from there. But it is what it is. Let's go ahead and talk about how to gear a champion. I feel like that's pretty viable information. So what I'm going to do is let's pull up a hero page here. Now, there's a few things that you really got to know and keep track of when you're going to go gear a DPS unit. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on a DPS unit. For those of you who are new and don't understand what DPS means, that means damage per second. That's going to be all of your damage dealers, okay? That's going to be your single target nuker. That's going to be your AoE mass damage. That's going to be your splash damage, which is going to be like a rock. Basically, that's someone who does more damage on the main target, but then does a subsequent amount of damage to the other surrounding characters. That's going to be like splash damage. Those are all different types of DPS champions. I do not count like Scarlet, Santis, people who do like bleed, ignite, plague. Those do not count as DPS units. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get into a particular DPS unit that we can use as a very good example on how to start building them. And kind of what to look for and how to diagnose, like, okay, what gear they need to have, what stats you should be shooting for, and kind of how to prioritize building this character. So let's use our girl Valeria here as an example, okay? Now there's a couple reasons why we're going to use Valeria, but let's talk about the stats I have on her right now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what I have her built in. I'm going to remove her gear, and we're going to go through and we're going to look at building her from scratch. Okay, so let's hit more. Now, as you can see here, her attack is at about 3,200 attack. Not terrible. Ideally, a DPS unit, you want 3,000 and above for attack. Health is at a little over 10k. That's per par. Defense is right at 1,000, and that's really the threshold. You need to be at least a minimum of 1,000 on DPS. Anything lower than that, I feel like they just fall over way too easily. Speed is only 127. This is super low. This is this is really bad. Crit rate, we're at 106.5. That's 6.5% over crit rate, which is one roll that's extra on this build. Ideally, that's just not really acceptable. Really, this should be like 102, 104 at max. At 106.5, that's literally one basic roll for crit rate. Crit damage is at 279. That's really good. That's pretty high, honestly. And then the other thing that a lot of you probably don't realize when you're trying to build your heroes or your DPS units is there's one other skill that you need to worry about, and that's going to be precision. Now, the reason why precision is very good to have on your DPS builds is because if they are a nuker, right? So say they come in and they do AoE damage and they just nuke the playing field. If you don't have precision and you're fighting someone who's weak element, they have a chance to deflect the attack. That's where this agility comes into play. Okay, so naturally, off element gets an agility boost on your off element characters. So if she were to attack a water unit, right, whatever that water unit's agility is, with the check from my precision, they could dodge. Well, it wouldn't be dodge, so it'd be a deflect, which means they take 50% less damage. So precision is another stat that a lot of people neglect when building their characters. Okay, so as you see here, I do have her in Avarice set, as well as a couple of cursed pieces here. Now these were just literally fill-ins that were just like, those are good staff that I had and that I was able to use on her build. Now, when I was saying earlier, what you need to pay attention to when building a DPS unit is you need to look at their kit. Now, I want you to realize that Valeria's ultimate here, this is a damage to all enemies. It's an AoE damage ability. Now, this reads that it's a standard damage to all enemies. This means Avarice set is going to work on her. Characters like Natalia, Avarice set does no bonus. That's because Natalia is a splash damage. Her abilities are alternate, so she can either be a single target nuker or she can be a multi-hitter, right? So in this case, Valeria is always a AoE damage dealer. Okay, all right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's go to her gear. I already talked about her stats. Now I'm not going to go for focus on her because it's not worth it. That one A1D defensive down, chances are I'm going to synergize her with another support unit that's going to be able to place that defensive down for me, such as William, or another support unit that has accuracy on them, focus on them, so that way I can use the defensive down spell with that character to land it. So I'm not going to worry about focus because I feel like that's going to be a wasted stat to get. Now, since I'm not going to go for focus, I can really focus on doing damage, okay? So let's go to gear equipment. We've already talked about this. We're going to use her in an Avarice set because it makes the most sense. Now, other characters for DPS units, you're going to have a couple of options. Sometimes it's going to be better to use like this assassin set. I really want to try to focus a lot on this. I feel like this is going to be a pretty powerful damage dealing set because it's a 50% damage bonus to the main target. It does proc 50% chance or 50% of the time. It's similar to Avarice, but this is going to be for single target nukers, okay? So that's where this set could come in really handy, whereas Avarice is a constant. So that's why Avarice is better for AoE nukers, whereas Assassin is going to be good for your single target nukers, okay? Another set to kind of note here with this whole damage dealing is curse set. Sometimes it's really good to have a curse set on a character. Like for example, a Vera, a AoE nuker. has an A1 that applies a rage. Well, once she hits 4 rage counters, she can then proc and keep going. You put her in a curse set, that gives her a chance to just go on an infinite loop to do a lot of damage. So something to keep in mind when you are trying to build your nukers or your damage dealers. Obviously, you have the warrior set. This is going to be a flat attack. Rage set is going to be trash. Pretty much don't use that on your DPS unless you are new. If you are new and you have to have that 20% crit rate bonus, definitely go for it. It is well worth it. But that's going to be the most beneficial sets for you, really, on the damage side of things. Raider set's not going to be terrible if you just want to go fast and do a lot of damage. But that's something definitely to keep in mind. As far as actual augmentation gear sets, going to be warrior set, going to be curse set, assassin set, avarice set. These 4 sets are going to be the main sets you really focus on for your damage dealers. Now, let's go ahead and let's take off her gear, and let's talk about what we can do with her. So we'll go ahead and we'll unequip all of her gear. Okay. She now has no gear. We have no stats. Glyph wise, her glyphs are done. Her abilities are done. So what we're dealing with is going to be final. So let's go ahead and pop into the weapon. Now here's where the video gets good, and this is how I build a character. And I want to go through this whole process with you because I want you to understand the best way to do this and understand the best way to build your character. So that way you're not upgrading pieces of gear that you necessarily shouldn't upgrade. Okay, so first things first, go into your rings. Okay, the ring is always your first piece of gear to use on a character. I don't care if it's DPS, a support unit, a tank, do your ring first. Here's why. If you hit main stat, you can see what stats this can be roll. Okay, now a ring is the only one that can roll crit rate or crit damage. Okay. This means that generally speaking, crit rate, crit damage, HP percent, or defense percent are going to be the only stats worth it on a ring as main stats. In this case, this is a damage dealer. Now, if you are mid-game to end-game, you want to be looking at only crit damage rings. You want to rely on getting crit rate on your other pieces of gear so that way you can use as much crit damage to do the most damage with your nuker. This is why I say start with this one first, because what you can do is you can click on this and you can say, oh, this has a +3 on crit rate. Okay, well, I can go with a crit rate main, but then I'm just out a lot of crit rate and I get a lot of crit damage on my substats. Or, oh wow, I have 50% crit damage, which is a lot of crit damage. With a +3 on crit rate, that's perfect. So that's something to keep in mind. So really, I don't keep any crit damage rings that don't have crit rate. Notice that they all have crit rate. This one is the exception, and honestly, it's food. I should really get rid of it because it does not have crit rate. And that's pretty much how I filter this through. Now notice I have not rolled any of these here. I'm just going to kind of take a quick peek at them, see if maybe I had a better one that I could use as an example here. I'm looking for a crit damage with crit rate and attack percent. Really, that's the ideal ones. But notice like this one didn't roll crit rate, so it's not that great. But since that one's not that great, we'll take that off. We'll go ahead and we'll filter this back. Now, don't forget that I said there was another stat to look for, right? What was the other stat I said? Precision. So another thing to look for is, okay, I'm gonna look for crit damage, crit rate, and then let's look for precision. Now this is so that way the attacks can land. In this case, there's a crit rate, a resistance, and a precision. Not necessarily the best thing in the world, but let's just roll it up to like 6. That's usually what I'll do on a crit rate ring that's a 6-star. And that's because that gives me a couple of chances to see if it'll roll crit rate. Because if it rolls crit rate, then I can potentially work with that piece of gear. If it does not roll crit rate, it's going to be trash, and I'm going to use it for food. So right here, we rolled a flat stat and resistance. That's a +6. This piece is done. It's no longer a viable crit damage piece in my account. Okay, so we'll go out of there. Now, now we're back to, well, we just got crit damage. Let's find crit rate. Okay, we got the +3. +3 on crit rate is amazing. It's really good. We're gonna take it. Now let's move on to the next part of the gear. Now, the reason there's a good reason why I'm doing this. So now we've set our terms. We know this character is going to be a DPS unit. Okay, we have picked the crit damage ring, so we're committing to damage. Now we need to focus on crit rate. This means everything that I pick from now on will get filtered for crit rate. So let's move on to the amulet. Now, notice the amulet. What can an amulet be? Focus or resistance. This is going to be for essentially your support units and your tanks. In this case, we're dealing with a damage dealer. What I'm looking for is attack percent. Only attack percent main. HP percent would be okay on one piece of gear, but only one piece of gear. In this case, though, I want attack percent. Once again, like I said, we committed to the crit damage ring. We need to have crit rate on every piece of gear until we hit that crit rate cap. Okay. And currently we're at 41%, so this means we need to get another 58.5%. Move myself over a little bit so you guys can see the stats just a little better. Perfect. Okay, now, so let's see, we got crit rate filtered here. All right, notice I also said that we kind of want avarice set. Well, I got a 1 on crit rate here. I got a 1 on crit rate here. This is warrior set, not bad. I have a crit rate on an avarice. Okay, that has potential, right? So what to do with this here? So this is a +6 that rolled a double flat. This is trash. This is a +6 that unlocked a crit damage substat but rolled on resistance. That's two rolls gone. Trash. Maybe potential. Once again, let's go crit damage. Okay, so we got this one. Okay. Precision. Notice you cannot get precision on your amulet. Did that on purpose. So now we're filtering through the stats that you're looking for in your damage dealer, right? So now you kind of understand, okay, well, there's certain stats I can't get on certain pieces of gear. So this is why we do this pecking order. So you know what pieces of gear you have to work for and work on to get the other stats you're looking for. You'll notice by the time I get to the top row exactly why I do this. Okay, in this case, we couldn't get the exact stats we wanted, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take this cursed necklace. All right, next we have is the boots. I do the bottom row first because those are your percent main stats that have the most versatile substats, whereas the top row does not have the same substats possible. Now, here's where things get a little tricky. You have two options on a boot. A boot can either go speed or it can go attack percent. These are the only two options, in my opinion, for a DPS unit to get. Now, speed boots are kind of nice when doing like arena, doing content also in like Witch of the Winds, where you need to have enough speed to do more damage. You could definitely do this and then pick obviously crit rate, because like I said, we need to filter everything with crit rate. We're only up to 54.5%, so we have to make sure we have that crit rate. And yeah, so there is that option. In this case, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go crit rate. I'm gonna say crit damage. I don't know that I'm gonna use these sets. Let's look at them. Not the greatest pieces. This agility wouldn't be terrible, but it's not really needed. Let's try attack percent. Crit rate, crit damage. Okay. Here is a crit rate, crit damage, and a speed. Now, what did I say were viable stats that could be used? Oh, was it speed and attack percent? That is what I was looking for. Okay, this has at least one roll on it. Well worth it, so we'll go ahead and take it. This puts us up to 64.5% on the crit rate. Crit damage is at 229 crit damage. Attack is only at 2,800. Like I said, you want to hit that like 3,000 threshold, and you really want to be pushing that 4,000 threshold. Okay, so now at this point, we're looking at 2 pieces of curse gear, 1 avarice set piece of gear. This tells me that I kind of want to focus a lot of avarice set on this top row if I can. The next one that I'm going to do is going to be the weapon. Here's why. If we go into the weapon, it's always going to be attack main stat. That's going to be it. It's only flat attack. On the secondary though, notice all the additional stats that you can filter for on the weapon. Now let's click on the helm. Notice that you do lose one particular stat that you really need, and that's speed. So what I like to do is I like to try to get speed on my weapons, just because that's the only main top stat that you can get it on. So notice that you can't get agility, but you can get speed. So I like to try to pull speed and crit rate on my weapons, and we kind of see what we get. Okay, in this case, we got a curse staff. We do have an avarice staff here, or avarice sword. It's kind of okay. I'm trying to keep, you know, some sets together. Let's also see if we can't get some crit damage. You know, we want to do as much damage in this composition as we can. Overall, not looking the greatest, but let's go ahead and take off this speed set. Let's look at what I got here for overall. Like, do I have any avarice that I can use? I want to say that I do. I want to say that I have an avarice set piece that I can use, right? Because I already built this character once. Notice here, we have it a +2 on the crit rate, +1 on the crit damage. Obviously that's going to come in very handy. I don't have too many other pieces of gear that could really do that. So let's go ahead. Let's just take a gamble here. Let's see. We'll roll this one to 6 and just see what we get. Maybe we get some crit rate rolls here, and maybe this could replace my current one. So notice that it's to 6. I did this because it has both stats I want. Let's just roll it. And I only rolled to 6 to guess it. Okay. It rainbowed. It went to crit rate, crit damage. That's good. So we'll keep taking this up, and we'll take this to 9. Now, I will not take it above 9. Not until I know exactly what I'm dealing with. Okay, it rolled resistance. Not terrible, but let's go ahead and let's back out. Let's see how this stacks up so far. So this one was 2 rolls on crit rate, 1 roll on crit damage. I am 1 roll on crit rate, 1 roll on crit damage, and another roll on resistance. Now, I can roll this to 12, and if this rolls crit rate, it's essentially the same as this one, right? At this point, it would be almost the same, other than I would lose a flat stat here. So definitely something to keep in mind when you're rolling these pieces of gear is you need to count the amount of +1s that you're getting and make sure that adds up. So that way you're not thinking, oh yeah, I'm getting a great deal out of this piece of gear because it only has crit rate, crit damage. But really, in all actuality, it rolled a resistance here. I get 1 more good roll out of this piece of gear. So I'm going to be really pigeonholed on this here. Whereas in this piece of gear, I did the same thing. But I already have the 3rd stat unlocked. So now this unlocked all 4 stats. So I'm going to get a little bit more out of this piece of gear because it has HP. And that's assuming this rolls crit rate. So that's something to keep in mind. Now this one here could potentially do the same thing. Let's just roll this to 6 and see what we get. So this could roll crit rate, crit damage. In this case, it rolled crit damage and it unlocked defense, okay? So now, even if I roll 1 more time for +9 and it rolls crit rate, I have not improved my outcome compared to this avarice set sword. Something to keep in mind when you're comparing and you're kind of gearing your characters is all those things kind of went in my back of my head simultaneously. Now, I'm going to keep these for now. What I'll do is I'll roll them up to at least 12 on a later date. If they roll stats I could use, then I will use them. If not, they will get used as food. All right, let's keep moving on. So next we have the helm and the chest. Now these, in my opinion, it doesn't matter which one you start with. I don't really have a set routine. Obviously they get the same substats as each other. The only thing to note is you cannot get speed. These two on the DPS unit are usually where I like to try to get my precision. Like you saw on this build before, right now she starts with a base of 100 precision, and we're only at +4. So we haven't gotten a whole lot of precision, but that's where on the helm and on the chest, I'm kind of looking to get a little bit of precision, and we're still lacking the crit rate. We're still down by, what is this, 18.5% crit rate is what we need to make her 100% crit rate. So let's first start with crit rate. Let's see what we have, and we're on avarice set. We want to try to complete this set. Okay, I have a double crit rate, double crit damage. That's very good. Now, do I have another one that could be crit rate, crit damage? No, I don't. Okay, what about chest? Do I have a crit rate and a crit damage here? I do. Okay, this has precision. Perfect, but notice that it's a double again, right? So this is where that kind of stuff comes into play. So we are at 96.5%. That is not good enough. It has to hit 100%. We got to get that crit rate. Now, here's where you can make a decision. You could say, I want to go crit damage, get more crit damage. I want to go precision, and I want to be able to hit weaker elements better, harder. That's a viable option. You could say this and then figure out another stat you want to focus on. In this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say crit rate and crit damage are really the bread and butter that I want to go with. Attack with percent would also be viable, but only depending on what the third set would be. Like in this case, attack percent, defense percent, probably not terrible to have. it would help you out in the long run, because there is a certain amount that coincides with if your attack is not high enough, it does not help your crit damage. In this case, though, I already know this is going to be the best piece of gear. We have a double roll on crit rate, a double roll on crit damage. Once again, we are at our really good stats for this character. I was unable to make a better set, but we did get right back to the 3200 attack, crit rate, crit damage. But that was the thought process on building the character. We looked at their kit, we figured out what set they could use and what set they would benefit the most from. We targeted that set. We targeted the damage from the get-go. We did the ground up on damage, focusing on crit damage first, on the ring, and then going for the crit rate to go with it later. That's the biggest thing, is you kind of work backwards. Work from your bottom row, center, all the way up to your top row. By doing this, it allows you to have the most flexibility on getting the stats on your pieces of gear. The other part of that is when you're gearing a champion, sometimes you don't have a lot of charms. With this bottom row, using your charms on this bottom row is so much more important than using them on the top row. The top row is flat stats. The bottom row is variable. It has percent stats, which is going to do more of a benefit to your count, more of a stat benefit to your character. So by focusing all on this bottom row first, I am utilizing my charms the best way to allow me the best success in building the best damage dealer that I can. I hope that thought process works well for you and you can kind of keep this in mind when you're building your own characters. And I hope this helped you understand a little bit more how to build a good DPS nuker and what you're looking for when you're building your nukers. Get any questions, comments, concerns? Please leave a comment down below. Also, hit that LD player link, guys. That helps me out a lot just by hitting that link, downloading LD player, utilizing it. I do get a kickback. I would appreciate it. Hitting that like and subscribe helps me out. Leaving comments definitely helps me out. It helps boost these videos, guys. We've been growing really big on YouTube, and I would love to keep growing so that way I can keep getting good sponsors. Eventually get to the point where I can be giving back to you guys as the community. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next time. Peace.